Welcome in, everybody. This is the Bluechip Breakdown, and we are your hosts, Bull and Timmy G, and we are joined today by a very special guest, Sports Talk Jay. Thank y'all, gentlemen, for joining us. So midweek chat, we're just going to talk about Tennessee versus Bama, break everything down. I see that there's already some questions down in the chat that we will be getting to. Y'all, please make sure to like and subscribe whenever y'all do come in. If you want to ask something, obviously just put it right there in the chat. We're going to try to get to everybody's stuff. But I want to start off with the gentleman right here on the panel. I want to know how y'all are feeling. I want to know what gives you confidence in this game and maybe what concerns you some. I want to start off with you, Jay.
Well, I feel good about the defense. Obviously, we haven't allowed anybody to score more than, 19 points the entire season, which is kind of shocking to me. The defensive secondary has just been outstanding. That was my biggest concern going into the season. My thing I wasn't concerned about after watching Nico in the Citrus Bowls, I thought he was going to ball out this year, and he looked great in the first 3 games. And he's been very hesitant and not running. And I know part of that is Heupel's been protecting him. He doesn't want him to get hurt, and I understand that perfectly. But it's time to run, and it's time to be the player he was in the Citrus Bowl, where he ran for 3 touchdowns and really should have had 2 throwing touchdowns if his receiver would have continued to run on that long bomb. And that's what I want to see. And hopefully that'll happen. He didn't miss by a lot in the Florida game on some of those what should have been touchdown passes. So I know he's got the touch. It's just, at some point the light bulb's going to click for him, I would think. And I'm hoping it starts in this ball game.
Yeah, for sure. So, Timmy G, what do you think, man?
Well, as far as concerns, I'm going to say linebacker, man, losing Peely, boy, that I don't think that could have happened at a worse time, because this is like we've talked about, this is going to be a huge game for the linebackers. Linebackers and offensive line, and honestly, those weren't 2 things that I was concerned about this year. Just like Jay said, like the things I was concerned about was, is it going to be our DBs? It was things like this. Can we cover? And man, Javon McCoy, like that. That guy is good. Ricky Gibson has really showed up. I thought Arian Carter made some huge, just showed a lot of maturity in that last game. But man, losing Peely, that's, that one hurt a little bit, but yeah.
Yeah. All right. So I don't know. It sounds like maybe not a whole lot of positivity coming from really either one of y'all, but I will say this. Okay. All right. So look, number one, right, I'll kind of stick with that theme. Obviously, there's several things that we can point to that do concern us, and obviously those are very, very valid points. If there's one thing that I would say maybe concerns me in this game, I would say maybe it's the unknown of if this Alabama defense is gonna maybe do something different. Because really, I'm more, I feel more confident with the simple fact that I think that Tennessee's offense is going to get going. We can run the football on Alabama all day long. I think that we can throw it too. It's just going to be, kind of like y'all had touched on. If Nico plays up to his standard, if we can take care of the football, offensive line kind of does their thing. But even still, with all those question marks, I think that just being able to run the football, Tennessee can just kind of control how this game is played. But just going back to, their scheme on defense, that 3-3-5 that they typically play, I saw it versus South Florida, and they spread it out. It was really easy to kind of see what they were in. Will they try to do what Arkansas did, and has Tennessee figured that out? So that, what I'm the most confident with is going to be Alabama's defense, and what would probably concern me the most outside of what y'all said would definitely also be with their defense if they come out with some different game plan and scheme. But I'm gonna tell y'all, okay, I've watched so much film. I've watched every single game, a whole lot of that Vanderbilt game, South Carolina, South Florida, and this is really the most confident that I've been that Tennessee will win, maybe since Kent State. And I know that sounds crazy, but to me, the matchup, it just feels like Tennessee. There's really no realistic reason, unless we have a bunch of turnovers, that Tennessee should lose this game. But the game is we have to play it just because crazy things can happen in this one. But let me go ahead and get to some of these chats real quick. First, I want to try to take a look at this poll and see how everything's looking. So, So the question is going to be, how confident are you in your team? And we've got, I'm a Vol fan and I'm very confident. That's got 42%. And then the other one is, I'm a Vol fan and I'm worried. That's got 58%. There's nothing from Tide fan. So if you are an Alabama Crimson Tide fan in here, just kind of like lurking, hiding, then you are welcome. Okay, you can definitely voice your thoughts and opinions and all that good stuff. So let's go ahead and start getting to some of these questions real quick. So from Tristan, what's going on, Tristan? He's asking, who do we think this is a bigger game for, or a bigger game or must win for? Is it DeBoer or is it Heupel? Because whoever loses, the fan bases are going to be losing their minds. So, Jay, what do you think about this one? Do you think this is bigger for Coach Heupel, or is it bigger for Kalen?
It might be for DeBoer, because they're starting to question whether or not they've got discipline on that team. And, of course, they're so used to Nick Saban, who was just – I've never seen anybody quite like him. He was always business first all the time, no party in the back. It was just business first. And I would think that's probably because Alabama's standard is so ridiculously high that if they lose 2 ball games in the same season, almost lost to South Carolina, almost lost to USF, and really have been struggling and really could have lost that Georgia game had they not come back. I mean, this season could have been a disaster so far. So I would think he's probably under more heat, whereas, we've almost given Heupel a statue already. So I got to think it's got to be DeBoer.
Yeah. Timmy G, what you think?
100% agree with Jay. Alabama expectations are through the stratosphere year after year. And he's got a tough act to follow. And everybody, man, they're criticizing the guy for what he's wearing on the sideline. You know what I mean? They're talking smack about him coming out wearing like a jumper or something. And I'm like, what do you care? But man, Bama fans will fall apart at the least little thing. They've just been pampered for so long with Saban, got used to, winning all the time. And I think if he loses this game, there's going to be a lot of negative stuff thrown his way. I don't necessarily think it's, fair, but maybe it is. I don't know. I mean, I heard Saban talking smack about him, like when they lost to Vandy. I mean, he was on there saying, they were playing undisciplined and they were doing he wasn't holding back. He was letting the world know. So for him, for sure. Don't get me wrong. Will Tennessee fans be upset? Hell, Tennessee fans were upset when we beat Florida. It's just what you go. Some people just going to be upset no matter what.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, I would have to. I'm on the same page with y'all, but too, I mean, Saban does have a point, because that's the thing about this Alabama defense is it's not the same. We kind of talked about that just watching them in spring practice. You could tell that they weren't as disciplined. They still have all the talent, but there's just a whole lot of playing things a little bit too slow. They're a little bit too laid back. And if they turn it up some more, which, again, that's what would concern me, is if they come out and if they have it turned all the way up, they could be a totally different team. But if they keep on playing, like what they've shown on film so far this season, I think the Tennessee is going to find a lot of success on that defense. Let's see what else Tristan has to say right here. He says that we are right there with the offense, so close. Nico has got to hit some of those over-the-top throws to win. If he doesn't, then I got a bad feeling. I think if we get to 30, we win this game. Under 30, I don't know. I think that's pretty accurate too, because I think that Tennessee's defense can probably hold Alabama's offense under 30. Like, I would trust our defense, even without Philly, to hold Bama under 30 more than I would trust Alabama's defense to hold Tennessee's offense under 30, even with how we've been playing offensively. This feels like things are starting to pick up, and it's just a matter of time before we start to hit some of those plays. And, I think that that's coming. But what do y'all think about that? I'm going to start off with you, Jay. How many points do you think Tennessee needs to score in this game to win?
Well, I've got Alabama scoring 27 points against us, because I don't think we can contain Jalen Milroe.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't. That's a number that just blares out to me that's what they're going to score. So, 30 is dead on. I mean, that's kind of surprising. I saw that. I went, dang, that's exactly what I think. Because Milroe is a very good running quarterback. He does occasionally make a mistake, but he's going to burn us a couple times. Yeah. And I'm not having Peely, it will play a factor in that. But even if we had Peely, Jalen Milroe is not going to be stopped. We just got to contain him. He's not Michael Jordan, so don't get it twisted, but he's darn good.
He is. Absolutely. Tim, what you think, brother?
Man, I'm the worst at this, at the points thing. That's not something I'm good at. Quite frankly, but I mean, I do think we will hit on some of those throws this time. I think we were super close to hitting on a couple of them last time. I don't know. I think we're going to come out and hopefully run the damn ball down their throats. But I don't know if it's going to be that high. Like I think I could see this game being 21-17 or something like that. It really depends. What Alabama team do we see? Which Tennessee team do we see? That's what I feel about that. That's why I think this game is so hard to predict. That Urban Meyer was struggling today, trying to, I don't know. Well, it's a Tennessee. I'll take Tennessee. Okay, are we talking about the Alabama team in the first half of the Georgia game, or the Alabama team in the second half of the Georgia game? It's just everywhere. I think this is a really insane game to call. I mean, one of these teams, if one of these teams click, it could get really wild really fast.
Yeah, it could.
Because I think they're both explosive.
Oh, for sure. Well, I mean, obviously, Alabama has shown that they can hit those deep passes a lot more so far this season than Tennessee has. Our offense has kind of slowed down some, but like I've kind of said, the offense that we were running to start the season off was, it's kind of more similar to what we're doing now. For whatever reason, we got very tight with the play calling. We got very up and down. But what I saw versus Florida is a team that kind of got back to trying to operate, opening things up. There was a whole lot of wrinkles to the play calling. So that's going to help. But we have just got to execute. It's kind of felt like we weren't used to running all that different stuff. And we were just a taste off. But I'm telling you, once we get back on, this offense can put up a whole bunch of points, and our defense is still going to be very, very good, especially versus an offense that really all they like to do is force the ball deep. I've watched so much film on, and everybody pretty much like they just stay deep, right? So Vandy did that. South Carolina did it. Any team that's capable of just stopping those deep passes, it really shuts down their entire offense because they don't have very much intermediate offense. And if you can try to slow down Milroe, which, I mean, that's a task. But South Carolina did it. Vandy did it. If you slow him down, then they don't have really that much more of a running game with their actual backs. So I think that Coach Banks is going to have a really good game plan. It's just going to be up to those players to go out, execute. I trust our front four. Okay. I trust our secondary. The linebackers, that's the thing that is definitely very, very concerning.
Well, can I say one thing about this?
Sure.
One thing I've not heard anybody talk about that much this week is William Inge, right? He coached at Washington, was a defensive. He wasn't the coordinator at Washington, was he? He wasn't the defensive coordinator.
He was the linebackers coach.
Linebackers coach. Well, this is a guy that's pretty used to going against a DeBoer offense, wouldn't you think? Yeah. Maybe I'm sure Tim Banks had a lot of questions for him, and they probably talked a lot about what they're going to do for this game. So I think it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, well, I mean, shoot, Goalish too. You know what I'm saying? Because Goalish just played them very, very similar style of play. It's pretty much the same scheme. So you already know, man, Goalish is going to have something. He's going to help us. And something else that I've noticed is that teams that have a quarterback that at least has a threat to run. South Florida ran their quarterback a ton. Vandy obviously ran theirs a lot. And then Sellers from South Carolina, he ran a lot. Now, it doesn't really matter how many yards you get. It's just that threat. That threat's enough to open everything else up. Their defense hasn't shown that they can, really stop that. So I think that Nico's going to have to use his legs some in this game. Right here from my dog, T.N. Jr. What's going on, brother? Hey, man, listen, I hope that you and yours are doing well. I hope that the power's back on and all that good stuff. But he's saying right here that he is evolved for life and he's not worried, but he's also not super confident with the offense. We will fight the Gumps for 4 quarters. I think that we will pull it out. I'm right there with you. And then Matt SS says, "Sup, y'all? Go Vols." What's going on, Matt? Let me get to this one right here. Brian Lemon says, "This seems like a bad matchup for us. Bama defensive front is quick and disruptive. Yes, they are. But, this is the thing. So I've kind of talked about this, and I would love to get y'all's thoughts on it too. But just real quick, they don't have those really big guys up front. Only 3 players are listed over 300 pounds. So we're used to playing up against teams that can bring those guys in waves. I think that we can push them some. I think that we can, run the football on them. Vanderbilt did it. South Carolina did it a ton. So that can happen. And then their second level, the linebackers, they look really good, but they're just so patient. They're so slow to get to the football that I think that's going to hurt them too. But what are y'all's thoughts? Do y'all actually think, like I do, that Tennessee's offense is going to match up well versus Alabama's defense? And I'm going to start off with you, Jay.
It certainly should. I believe the last 2 ball games that Alabama's played, they've allowed 75% completion rate, which is shocking to me, especially with Lenore Sellers, who's not the greatest thrower of the ball, even though he's a heck of an athlete. That could be really outstanding for a Nico to go up against a team that's struggling against the pass, because I just don't know. With Nico, I watch him throw the ball, and he's just got such a good motion, and he throws such a catchable ball. It feels like if he could just click a couple of times and hit on some guys on some of those big passes, he might. Momentum's a funny thing in sports. You get some confidence. I feel like he's close. I feel like he could get close. And Alabama's not – they're not the Alabama defense of old. To give up 75%, to give up 2/3 of the third downs against Vanderbilt, who I know that's Diego Pavia, the guy can do about anything. But Lenore Sellers looked awful good in that, and he's not – that's the best he's looked all year. Yep. The best he's looked all year was in that game, and I've watched him a bunch. So it could be a very interesting game for Nico.
Yeah. Tim, what you think?
Well, I hope Jay's right. I hope it's a great game for Nico. I think he is going to have a moment. I think the big thing on this is, where Brian was talking about, they're small and they're twitchy, right? I think you just try to manhandle them, man. I think you just try to run the damn ball on them. Dylan Sampson is the guy's got 15 touchdowns. We're halfway through the season. He's got 15 touchdowns. The leader, I can't remember who the leader. I saw the stat today who the leader was. Number 2 was Chuck Webb. I don't remember who the number 1 was because it wasn't a name that I recognized immediately.
I think it might be Travis Stevens.
No, it was
not Travis Stevens.
Dude, trust me, I would know the Gator Killer. I know some Travis Stevens, bro. That was in my time. Hell, that was But I do not remember the name, but he's pushing for a record this year. I think he's one of the most dynamic backs we've seen since Alvin Kamara. And I think if they are that twitchy, just bully ball until they put 8 men in the box and try to stop it and throw over the top of them. Let's make it happen.
Yeah, for sure. No, I think that y'all make excellent points. Let's get to the super chat right here from 10 Vols 1084. Thank you so much for 1999. Says, go Vols, much love and appreciation, Bull and Sports Talk Jay. Also, Timmy G. And he says, and subscriber and fan of both your channels. I think the Vols I think the Vols win a closer game at home. Tennessee 34, Alabama 24. I love that. I think that's a very accurate prediction. I think it's going to be pretty close to that too. I'm not going to give it out just yet, but let's go ahead and play this clip. Yes, sir. All right, so let's get to some more of these chats. And also, y'all, at about 8:25 to 8:30, we're going to take a look at the, status update and all that, see who all's hurt or, who's probable, questionable, all that type of stuff, who's going to be out for this game. I think that we have a good idea of who's, of what it looks like for Tennessee, but maybe there's somebody on Alabama's side that's going to be kind of a shocker. Hopefully nobody is injured. Never wish for injuries or nothing like that, but we will be taking a look at that as soon as that updates. Now, let me get back to some more of these questions in the chat. I got to get back to where I was at because I had to scroll all the way down. Give me a second. All right, so right here. This is from Charles Tolston. Says the defense has kept this team afloat when Nico gets on the job training. Yeah, I think that's true, man. The defense has kind of carried us, and I'm curious if things are going to flip around without Peely. But like I've said, we will. I mean, obviously, there's going to be some growing pains, but I think that we can kind of scheme around that. And we've got so much good talent, especially up front, that hopefully we can kind of hide some of the guys that need to grow up playing at linebacker. Tien Jr. says, love the Sports Talk J crossovers. Go Big Orange. Yes, sir. Andrew Ginhold says, go Big Orange. Tien Jr. Nico going to hit a couple of those longer throws and the offense starts clicking. More Nico wheels and we are off to the races for sure. All right, let's see if we have some more questions in here. All right, so we're going to get back to the questions here in just a second, but let me ask y'all this, okay? Who do y'all think, just because there's so much talk about the offensive line? So, number one, what do y'all think? Is the offensive line as bad as y'all keep hearing people talking about, or, do you think it's worse, or do you think it's better? And then who do you think maybe needs to step it up on that offensive line the most? And I'm going to start with you, Jay.
On the offensive line, who needs to step it up?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, boy. Obviously, the two tackles. I mean, Lance Hurd's a 5-star. Campbell's, God, what's he, like a 6-year senior?
7.
Yes,
7.
yes.
Is he
7.
7?
I think he's on his 7th year. Yeah.
This will be the last year we hear about the 7-year seniors. Because
there's going to be an 8th or a 9th. I saw somebody who got, I think it was the Utah guy, right? He got a waiver now. He's literally going to be in like his 8th season of college football next year.
Yeah,
he got a medical red shirt.
Wow. Well, here's what I would say: if I'm Lance Hurd, and I know he's getting paid a lot of money, and I know he's had some injury issues, I'd be pissed. I'd be like, look, nobody's respecting me at all, and I'm getting ready to go up against Alabama, and I would not be happy. I'd be proving people wrong. Same thing with Campbell. He got some good change to move over to the right tackle. I'd be ticked off I'd be furious for both of them. I mean, I would be so mad, and I would take it out on the Alabama defensive line. So that's the two players that I think need to step it up. And for God's sakes, don't hold whenever Nico swings out. If you have to tape up your hands to stop holding, don't hold. And, yeah, you may lose a guy, but Nico's pretty elusive. If you hold, that's 10 yards. We're 1st and 20, we're done. That takes away the running game. Now they're not worried about the run. That's who's got to step up. I'm not worried about the interior.
Yeah. Me too. Tim, what you think?
I mean, it depends on the game you watched. Which game are we talking about? Because I've seen multiple players on the offensive line do some not so good things at times. And I know Hurd catches a lot of flack. And for that one game, man, I think he was just out of shape, like bad. But I mean, I think everybody needs to remember too, he's basically a freshman. I mean, I know he's not technically a freshman, but he kind of is. I mean, he transferred from LSU. He was sitting behind a literal NFL line, although they haven't played much like an NFL line this year. But this is like his 6th or 7th game probably. I mean, he didn't really play much at all while he was there. So, he still is young. I've seen some plays he's whiffed on, and I saw some plays he gave some pretty good effort on. That one sweep around the end where he got out in front of Dylan and he showed some burst and stuff. I just think maybe the guy, hopefully it was a conditioning thing that we saw in his first one back, and he's going to be a little bit better this game. But, man, I think they just got to clean it up across the board, really, with a couple of them. The only one that I've seen who's been that I can't say I've seen really mess up at all this year is probably Cooper. Eric Carrick, don't go downfield, man. If it's a bad play, stay in a block. Don't be 5 yards downfield. And just like Jay said, man, watch the holding. But something else I'd like to add to that is, when is a ref going to call holding for us? Right? Yeah. When James Pierce is running a guy down, and didn't I see somewhere like it's been since 23 since we've had a live action penalty?
Really? That's wild. So you know what? I had actually started like kind of clipping up some of James Pierce's plays, and I've got 23 clips of him getting held and then not getting called. Yeah. And I'm gonna try to put that out, and hopefully we can kind of share that on social media, get some buzz going with it. I feel like I heard that somebody within Tennessee's program sent it to the SEC office. But we got to get some calls. I mean, that's going to help us out tremendously. So I think that's an excellent point. But just kind of back to the offensive line, I think that we've got talent up there. Like, there's some people that are saying, man, this offensive line just can't be fixed. It's with the technique. And I hate to call out a coach, but I think maybe Coach E, he's got to maybe switch up the way that he's teaching, because what I'm noticing every single one of our offensive linemen do is they'll duck their head and they lunge forward. And they do it in pass protection. They do it in run blocking. And every time that they miss a block, that's why. It's not like, you could look at Georgia's line. those guys are getting ragdoll, thrown to the floor. That's different. Like, I don't know if you can fix that. Like, they've got real issues up front. I've never seen any of our offensive linemen literally get manhandled. Do you know what I mean? It's things that they can get fixed. So once that does get fixed, this team is going to be, I think, extremely hard to stop, because Nico had the time. I think he had plenty of time last week. Okay, it wasn't perfect. We did give up 3 sacks back to back, but we had 2 backup players that came in on all 3 of those plays, and then once they went out, we didn't give up any more sacks. So I think that was part of the problem there. But outside of that, there was times when Nico had 3-4 seconds. That's plenty of time. He's got to find people quicker. He's got to hit them quicker, and we got to keep on dialing things up to give him those opportunities. And it feels like the staff is definitely doing that. Let me get to some more of these questions and comments right here from Deborah P. What's going on, Deborah? Hope that you're doing well. I haven't heard from you in a while. But Deborah is saying, I think Nico was mentally overwhelmed during the post-game presser. He didn't remember Heupel going for it on 4th down and asked, did we get it? If Vandy can beat Bama, then we can too. Absolutely. So I think that obviously a lot of what Vanderbilt does is almost like some triple option stuff, but Tennessee can run the ball. Tennessee can kind of mimic all of those plays, and then Tennessee has the real threat to throw it too. So I think that we'll have plenty of success versus that defense. But just kind of talking about Nico, do y'all think that maybe he's kind of like overwhelmed mentally? Like, what do y'all think is kind of going on with him? Why do you think that we've seen some of the fumbles that we kind of talked about as we were getting things started? And why do you think that maybe the play is stepped back? And I'm just talking specifically about Nico. Jay?
I think it's pretty obvious that he's been, I don't know if pampered is the right word. That's probably a little rough. But this is a guy that has been outstanding his entire life. He's never been probably pushed that hard. Now, that's an assumption on my part, because he's so talented. I mean, everything he does, he was always the best at it. So when that happens at a young age, coaches kind of put bubble wrap around a guy like that. You know, I watched him play a little bit of high school ball, and he looked great, but I mean, it was child's play for him. Yeah. Then he last year he played almost none until he got into the citrus, and then he looked like he was balling out in the citrus. He did get sacked 6 times, but you know, we had a makeshift offensive line against a great Iowa defense. And then he kind of balled out in that game. And I was like, okay, you know, it light bulbs going off here. He's getting it. And then what did we do? We pampered him the first 3 games, never let him run, never let him do the deal where he holds the ball instead of handing it to Sampson. There was none of that. So when you needed him to do that in a big game like Florida, he's not used to it at all. Dylan Sampson he's like, did he really just do that? I'm supposed to get the ball 99.9 times out of 100 unless it's practice. You know, occasionally he'll act like he's going to run. Well, he saw a 15-yard field pasture over to the left, and the defensive end had crashed in, and he's going, my God, I can run 10 yards before somebody hits me. So he holds on to it, and Dylan's going, you never do this, dude. What's happening here? So to me, I think that's a big part of it is that, and I understand why. If you think about it, our backup is Gaston Moore, who's a 5th-year senior. Is he 4-year or 5-year senior? But, you know, he's not going to have the talent level of a Nico. It's not like we've got, a Manning behind him. So I'm sure Heupel's going, well, crap, I need this guy the whole year, not for 5 games. So I think that's a big part of it. And unfortunately, he's in the SEC, where you get thrown into the deep end, you get dunked all the way to the bottom of the dadgum thing until you think you're going to die, and then you're let up for a little sip of air, and then that's it. So that's what's happening, I think.
Yeah, no, I think that those are excellent points. And Timmy G, we're going to get back to you here in just a minute. But first, we got to take a look at this status report because it is now up. It's a couple of interesting things on here. So I hope that y'all can see this. Okay, yeah. All right, let me bring it right back. All right, so right here for Alabama, none of those names are really standing out to me just as far as who is out or questionable or probable. So I think that we'll be fine there. Maybe that DB, okay, he might be one of their guys. But now let's come on down to Tennessee. All right, outside of the people that we already know. Well, Spillman is still on this list. It's getting more and more critical that he gets back and gets some reps. Because, man, if he hadn't missed so much time, I'm going to tell you, I would feel so much more confident with Tennessee because we just need some more depth. I think that's what scares me the most is that we're getting so thin. But Cam Seldon is questionable. Now, I think that we need him in this game. We haven't used him pretty much at all this season, but this is a game that I feel like if we try to run the ball 50-plus times, hopefully that is what our game plan is. You need at least 3 running backs, and I would probably trust him more than Peyton Lewis, who's a true freshman at this point. I think that Keith might be able to help you out. But then also Lance Hurd, listed as probable. What the heck's going on with him? Do you think maybe his ankle flared back up? What are y'all's thoughts on this? And Timmy G, I'm going to start off with you.
I don't recognize the only name from Alabama I recognized was the Kendrick Law, and that doesn't mean anything. Yeah. That just means I recognize the name. That's all that means. I don't know if he's good or what. Maybe I don't know. But as far as Tennessee goes, man, like what is going on with Spielman? Like he has been out for a very long time, and obviously losing Peely. We've already talked about that. Cam Seldon, once again, this is a guy that's he's been dealing with injury all season. Have we seen him come back? Did he catch some kicks in the last game or something? Because I don't know when the last time we saw him was, especially not at running back. And Hurd, that is kind of surprising. I didn't know anything was wrong with him. I don't know if something else, he flared it up in that game or whatever. But I'm like you though, man. The linebacker thing, the depth thing worries me a little bit. But I just think, man, it'd really be nice if Spielman wasn't hurt so he could be catching some of these reps and, growing a little right here.
Yeah. Jay, what do you think? Is it anything that kind of stands out to you?
I can tell it's not an Ole Miss injury report because there's not 25 people on the list. That jumps out at me immediately. That looks like a reasonable list. I'm concerned about Lance Hurd being on there as probable. That sounds – I'm not going to get on anybody about injury because I don't know how anybody plays college football and doesn't get injured. It just shocks me, honestly. I would last 2 plays because I'm lucky. I'd last the first play just out of luck, and the second play I'd be out on a stretcher. So, I'm not going to give these guys grief, but no, nothing jumps out at me other than I'm a little disappointed to see Lance Hurd in there, but I'm not seeing Campbell on there, which is good. And I'm not seeing anybody else. I think we've been somewhat fortunate when it comes to injuries, with the exception of a couple of guys,
Yeah.
We've done okay.
Yeah, I definitely think so. Now, who do you think is going to step in if Lance Hurd can't go? I mean, obviously he is listed as probable, which means that he's probably going to be able to play. But if he's kind of dealing with something, someone's going to have to be probably splitting some snaps with him. Especially if this is hey, we're going to run the ball at him all the time. You know what I mean? You kind of get a little bit more banged up. But who do y'all think would come in at left tackle first? Would it be Dane Davis, or do you think it would be Larry Johnson? I'm gonna go back to you, Tim.
Ooh, I don't know, man. I mean,
I'll be back in just a second.
Go right ahead.
Cool.
I think they would probably go with Davis first, possibly just because he's the older guy and has more experience. But we've seen Larry Johnson in there as well, so it might be. They might try them both in a situation like that and see who's best. But that also depends if, I think Campbell's just a matter of time before he's down for a game or so with that knee and having to have it drained. But,
well, you know what? That's the thing though, is that Campbell. I mean, we already know Campbell's going to have to take breaks. We've seen it now. We're kind of starting to give breaks to our guards too. So, I mean, do you think that with all those breaks? I mean, well, I guess with all those breaks, Larry Johnson's going to have to get in. I think that at this point, I kind of like Larry Johnson more than maybe Dane Davis, especially on that left side. But Dane came in first last week whenever Campbell had to come out. So, but to me, that just makes the most sense. You put Larry Johnson over there at left tackle, and then maybe you put Dane at right. Maybe the most concerning thing for me is what do we do whenever we got to bring in a backup guard, because that's where I've seen some more struggles at with Tennessee's offensive line. But I think that we'll be ready. This is a game, honestly speaking, I feel like everybody's gonna come in ready to play. All right, because Coop, especially, he can't stand Alabama, so he's gonna have the offensive line ready to go. So I think that they're gonna maybe play their best game of the season. I'm gonna get to some more of these chats because I know we have a lot that we got to catch up on. Windy City Vols says huge game for both teams. Good to be at Neyland. Easy to worry about the Vols versus Bama, but I think this game is going to be the turning point for the Vols. I agree. I think that this is going to be what kind of puts us back into that national prominence. And then Robert Duncan says if Vandy can beat the Tide, surely our Vols will. I agree. 100%. Even though it's not the same old Vandy, right? Like Vandy actually looks pretty solid, but I just think that the way that Vanderbilt was able to beat them is what should raise some red flags for Alabama fans and just for the Alabama team. Brian Lemon says, does the defense draw a holding penalty against Alabama or the Alabama line this week? Yes, we just talked about that. I think that it's coming. We're going to try to get some stuff stirred up on social media. I think I might be able to get that out hopefully by tomorrow. So, whenever I put it out, y'all just share, and we'll see if that makes a difference. Let's get to this one right here from Wendy Cityval. Says we have to avoid penalties and turnovers. If we do that, we're good. I think so. All right, so I'm going to come back to you, Jay, with the same question, just kind of talking about with the offensive line. Who do you think is going to come in first for Larry Johnson? Because we know that John Campbell is going to be in and out. He's going to, Dane Davis typically does come in for him. But who do you think?
Lance Hurd?
Huh?
You mean for Lance Hurd? Who would come in for Lance Hurd?
Yeah. Okay, yeah, sorry about that. Yeah. So who would come in for Lance Hurd, if he can't go in this game?
So I thought Dane Davis could sub for either one of them.
Yeah.
So I would think he'd be first. And then what is it? The Kennedy guy?
Johnson? Larry Johnson?
Larry Johnson. Why do I always confuse? I always want to call him Kennedy. 6'7", like 300 and 400 pounds or whatever.
Very large man.
Big man.
Yeah.
And look decent. I would guess those would be your top two replacement guys in there. And, we've actually been a little bit fortunate in that we've kept most of our guys. I just assume that you're going to have injuries all the time. I'm just so used to it, especially as hard as these guys go at it. So I'd say those two guys would probably be your first two that you'd add in there. And look, Alabama's dealing with injuries too, and every team is. Every team's lost key players.
Yeah, for sure. That's just part of it. But I think that, honestly speaking, man, Tennessee's offensive line, we have more depth than probably most. It's a good thing that at least we've got some guys that we know can, they might not be perfect, but we know that they can play. It's not going to be some just gigantic drop-off where those guys can't even hold up for, 2 or 3 counts. So I think that we are in a pretty decent position from that standpoint. I am fully expecting that Lance Hurd will go. He might not be able to go every single snap, but I think that he's going to go. And it's going to be huge for us in this game because he's one of our best run blockers. I know some people don't think that he's playing up to par, which he's not. But run blocking, he mauls people. I've seen him block 2 or 3 people. I've seen him wash down almost the entire line. So we are going to need him. But really, all of our guys are pretty good at it. Let me get right here. Okay, so this one is from Anthony. And Anthony's saying, get Nico on the move, roll him left and right. Tell him, if the first 2 reads aren't there, take off. Bama can't get off the field on defense. By running Nico, we can convert some third downs on them as well. I think so too, man. So what y'all think about what Tennessee did, I guess, just from a scheme perspective last week versus Florida? Because we saw them kind of rolling things out more, and I know we've kind of touched on it, but do y'all like that more, or are y'all more like, look, Nico needs to try to sit into that pocket and try to force the ball down the field? I'm going to start off with you, Tim.
Do I think he needs to set in the pocket more and force it down? Is that what you said?
Well, so no. So question really is, do y'all like the fact that we are rolling Nico out more?
No, 100%.
Or do you think that we need to try to just keep him in that pocket and make the offensive line block for him?
Well, I think you got to do whatever it takes to make the kid comfortable, because I think a lot of his problem has been he's been seeing ghosts a little bit, and rightly so. It's not like I don't think that's unwarranted. But yeah, I mean, roll him out and let him, establish get a couple throws under his belt, give him a little bit of confidence, let the game slow down a little bit for him. Do whatever you have to do. Whether it's obviously try to keep the pocket clean, that would be ideal, right? That's kind of what should happen. But if not, roll him out. And it looked pretty good in the Florida game when they did that. And he had a couple throws, man, that were pretty nice. I think one to Squirrel as he was cutting across there right by the sideline, and Chris Brazzell, and he had some pretty good throws doing that. If he's comfortable in do it because do everything you can to give this defense fits. That's what I say.
Yeah. So Jay, what do you think about that? And maybe I'll kind of like rephrase that question. But I guess what does that say about Tennessee's coaching staff's confidence in our offensive line that we have been rolling Nico out more? Do you think that it's more of a situation where we don't trust the offensive line, or is it maybe a little bit more that, man, look, Nico just operates better whenever he rolls out and he's only got a half a field to have to like read.
Well, if I was Nico, I'd much rather roll out and have some space between me and some 300-pound guy coming to knock my head off. Yeah. So that's going to make you a lot more comfortable. Plus, he has the second option of being able to just run, run to the sideline, get 5 yards, because he normally is in a position to have those choices. And if somebody is about to get him, now he's got space, because Nico, for 6'6", is extremely quick and elusive for that size. We saw that. We've seen it a lot. When they do get him, they barely get him. They like trip him up, which means he's probably going to get even better at that and become more elusive as he gets bigger and stronger and faster as he gets a little bit older. He's still a little bit slim for his height. Yeah. So I'd swing him out left and right, because that's when he's the most dangerous, is when he's got space. And I promise you, Alabama does not want him out there in space. They do not want that. They want him in the pocket where they can collapse it and cause him all kinds of grief.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so I think that those are excellent points. Now we're gonna catch up on some of these questions and comments right here. So Darren Weaver says, "Where's Cam Seldon been? Is he still injured? We rolled with 3 running backs the past few years. Sampson is piling up a lot of carries." Yes, so we actually just kind of touched on that. He was hurt. I want to say maybe like for the first couple of weeks or something like that. He missed like a week or two, but he was back. Okay, like he's been back for maybe I would say maybe like a week or two. But sounds like he's going to be questionable for this game. So we'll see. I think that's pretty big. Bill Glover says Tennessee will be on their game and will come out on top late. Go Big Orange. Love that. 1 second. Let me make sure. From my dog right here. UT Bad Gumps. Okay, all right. That was good.
You're good.
So,
you're good.
All right. So execution by 1 or 2 players on big plays has been our issue the last 2 weeks. Coop was late getting off a block, and John didn't allow a guy through, caused us to miss a huge gain. Yeah, so really nobody on the offensive line has played perfect, but I do think, honestly speaking, for the most part, we've played well. And it did kind of sound like with Coach Heupel, he said, look, we've got to start to play as a unit. He said sometimes we're only playing with 4 guys. And I think that he's probably kind of singling out Lance Hurd. Lance has got to get things picked up, and I know that everyone understands that. But outside of that, I think that and really it's probably not even always Lance. He might not have been talking about Lance. He could have been talking about, there's 4 guys to go. And I could honestly, just from going through the film, I could find any of the other guys up front that aren't doing their job. So everyone's just got to step up. Matt SS says, we can't shoot ourselves in the football. No turnovers. Keep the penalties down, especially offensive holding. Solid special teams. Recipe for success. Yeah, I think this really is a game that all we got to do is just what we have been doing. Defense, play well, run the football, take care of the football, manage the game, and we should be good. Right here, TLNG 2024 says intermediate pass game, need some now. Yeah, I think that's coming. The only thing about the intermediate pass game, a lot of times, y'all, is that it takes longer. You have to have the offensive line's got to block longer for you, because the intermediate stuff takes longer to kind of come open. But we can work the seams, which I've seen us implementing just as late as last week. Rough. Okay, I'm not going to read off that name. Says, listen, Ricky Gibson is the truth, and Sampson will guide us. I love our secondary, man. Both of our cornerbacks have played lights out. I know that y'all concur with that. CTB Spiffy says, we win the game. We win this game. Look out. Go Big Orange for sure.
Love it.
Darren Weaver says, would be nice if we could get Jacoby Thomas more time on the field. He brings a little fire when he's out there. I agree with that. I think that he's really good. Let me just catch up on a few more of these. We're kind of getting close. And then Cassie Stewart says, our offensive line has to do better than they have been for us to have a chance. Absolutely no question about that. That's an excellent point. Matt SS says, we can't shoot ourselves. Okay. All right. So we saw that one. All right. So we are pretty caught up at this point, and we will get back to some more of these here in just a minute. But I want to kind of take a look at some of these numbers just because we are kind of getting close. So if y'all could just try to get y'all's questions in, we'll give you like a couple more minutes to get in those questions, and we'll just read off everything that comes in, in these next couple of minutes. And, we're going to go ahead and wrap this thing up. But if y'all just look at this thing on paper, all right, like this is one of those charts, and Jay and I kind of talked about all the time that it takes to put into these charts. So I'm definitely going to put this up for everyone to look at. But right here, this is Alabama's offense versus Tennessee's defense. You can see that on Tennessee's side, everything's green, which means that on paper, Tennessee, we are better in all those categories. Now, I think that Alabama has maybe played up against some better competition. That's kind of a toss-up. But what do y'all see from this, right? Like, what do y'all think, just in kind of like glancing over this? Is there anything that kind of stands out to you that maybe you didn't know before? Or is there something that you could look at and say, hey, this is something that Tennessee, this is a positive thing for Tennessee, and we think that it's actually going to be true? Or maybe is there something that you say, nah, this is not as accurate as what these numbers show? I'm going to start off with you, Jay.
This looks the opposite of what we usually see when it's Alabama and Tennessee. So this is outstanding. Of course, we're playing Alabama, so I've got the battered ball syndrome that's popping into my brain. But I feel great about our defense. Their offense is solid. It's not honestly, Milroe is the key. If you can contain him, just contain him, they're not going to score a ton of points. If he goes wild like he did in that first quarter against Georgia and runs all over you, you're going to get in big trouble real fast. So I'd be focused on trying to contain him. I would try to keep him in the pocket as much as I possibly can, which you're not going to be able to do. And then hope that Nico, releases and just becomes the guy that or starts showing those signs and hits a couple of those big ones. And I gotta pop out in just a minute, Bull.
Okay.
So when I disappear, just know I'm not leaving you. I got other things I gotta chime in on.
All right, for sure. So first off, let me just say this. Thank you so much, Jay, for joining us today. I know that everyone loved having you on, and hopefully we can do a whole lot more of this moving forward. But it's always good to chat up with you, man. You definitely brought a whole lot of great answers to some of these questions from our guys inside of the chat right here. So
no worries. Nice to meet you, Timmy. I appreciate. I've watched you just the one time, but it sounds like you know exactly what you're talking about. And of course,
I've got you guys fooled.
Well, I understand that. Me too.
Man.
I'm a golfer. I'm not a football player.
Well, yeah, that's like only probably
football.
That's probably only the toughest game in the world, though. So if you're going to pick
everybody
to be good at it, like
tell me it's not a sport.
No, it's 100% a sport. Now, I don't think it makes you an athlete, but it is a sport, and it is the toughest game in the world. I don't know that many people can argue with that. Because
I can run like a 7.0 40. I'm pretty good. Watch out for me. I appreciate it. I'll see you all. We'll be talking.
All right, Jay. Thanks, brother.
Yeah, bye-bye.
Yeah, man, that is my guy right there, Jay. So he's awesome. Y'all make sure to go. If y'all aren't already, I think most people know about his channel, but make sure to go check out his channel. It's Sports Talk Jay. He has it's funny, pretty much all his videos. He's got some humor in it, but he brings a whole lot of great info. So awesome dude too, man. All right, so let's go ahead. Oh, I'm sorry. Let me pull this back up, Timmy G, because I want to get your thoughts on this. So anything that kind of stands out to you, just looking at the numbers from Alabama's offense versus Tennessee's defense.
Well, Tennessee's defense is elite. Like this shouldn't be a secret. I think we literally have the number 2 defense in the nation right now, don't we? Mm-hmm. The only team that has a better defense than us is Texas. And who knows, that might change this weekend depending on what happens at Georgia and then all that. That's going to be interesting. But Tennessee's defense is elite, and this is kind of the opposite of what we've been used to. The last time we played Alabama, we knew our offense was elite. But we also knew our passing defense was trash, and it turned into a shootout. This looks totally different than that. I mean, I like all the green I see on our side. I'll say that. But just like Sports Talk Jay said, I think containing Milroe is the key to winning this game. And I also think Dylan Sampson's the key to winning this game too. So.
Man, he's gonna have to carry a very, very heavy load for us coming up this weekend. Okay, so now we're going to go on ahead and try to get back to the chats because I know we've got a few that we've got to get back to. Let me see if I can. I keep on losing my spot, y'all, so that's on me. But I
think you're right below the super chat down there.
Yeah, let me see if I can get back up there. Okay. All right, that's why. Yep. Okay. Thank you so much for that. All right, so we're gonna get back to these questions. All right, we're gonna try to get all these knocked out. So UT Bad Gump says, if Lance Hurd brings his running shoes instead of his My River shoes, we can have more success in the passing game if the refs don't call one-sided BS holding calls and call it fair. I'm going to tell you, first off, that's a really good point. We all know that in this Bama game, especially last season, y'all can call it what you want, but the truth is those referees cheated for Alabama down there. They do it all the time. And I mean, I've seen them do it up in Knoxville some too. Hopefully we won't see it as much, but it's not like, yeah, I mean, Alabama came out in the second half last season and they looked like a kind of a different team, but there were so many things that were not called that went in the favor for Alabama, or things that were called for Alabama. They got them back into it. The refs always play a major role in this game. That's just the way that I look at it.
100%.
Yeah, I think they play a very major role. All right, so Dirty Higgins, what's going on, Dirty Higgins says, any news about our wide receiver injuries? Got to have someone better than Nimrod backing up the slot. So I didn't see anybody on the list just as far as wide receivers. Everybody should be 100%, and I think that we're good. But I do also feel like, and I think that, Tim, I think you feel the exact same way, that Mike Matthews needs to play more. Like, we've been looking around for him. Where is he at? I think that maybe you kind of, maybe you give him an opportunity over Nimrod at this point. But that's just based off of what we see. We don't see as much as those coaches. But yeah, go ahead.
I don't know if we would put Matthews in the slot though, right? In his natural position outside, maybe.
Yeah, probably.
Maybe. But I mean, let's also say this, and I don't know if a lot of people have caught on to it. He has actually been in the game. I think he played 13 snaps the last game. Now, did he make a catch or anything that we saw? No, not really. But I just think that was the way that game was. Like,
maybe that's true.
You know what I mean? Like, look, we weren't hitting. Brew didn't even get a catch, did he? I'm not sure that Brew got a catch the entire game. So it's not like that was a standard game. I think we were having some issues, obviously. I mean, 3 points in the first quarter, it wasn't a beautiful game in the first half. But he did see some snaps. Now, do we want to see him be able to go up and high point some balls and stuff? Yeah, I want to see more than that from everybody. Like Dante Thornton, all these guys. You got these big, huge receivers. Throw it up and let those guys go up and grab it. Don't throw it into three, okay? But if it's one-on-one, throw it up and let your receiver make a play.
Yeah, I'm trying to think back. That interception that Nico threw, I think it might have been to Brew. He stares Brew down too much. I mean, how many interceptions has he thrown that he was trying to target Brew in like double coverage, triple coverage? He's going to do better than that. All right, let's get to all the rest of these. We got several more. So Darren Weaver is saying that Florida was daring us to throw rolling 6 to 8 in the box until Nico burns a few. They are going to press. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. But that's the thing, though. It's that I think that we need to have, like, I would much rather the defense come up. You know what I'm saying? Come up and give us those open things, because we had people open. Actually, we're talking about Mike Matthews was wide open on a post. So people were open, and if teams keep on doing that, we're going to hit it. Like, that's what Heupel wants. So yeah, let them keep on coming up. Nico's going to, trust me, Nico's going to burn them soon. That one's coming for sure. Let's get to this right here from Carla Jenkins. What's going on, Carla? She says, I feel James Pierce Jr. and Dylan Sampson legacy games. I think so too. I think, and I've felt like this, Tim, pretty much. Maybe I felt more like this the closer that we've got to this game. But I think James Pierce is about to he's about to just go crazy, man. I don't know why I got that feeling.
I know why you feel that way, because he's been getting better and better and better as the season went on. Look, last year was different for James. He balled out. He had how many sacks? It was a bunch, right? Like, that was his coming out party. But guess what? Defenses weren't scheming to stop him. This year, defenses were scheming to stop him. And you know what? I think over the course of time, he's begun to start figuring some things out. And I think possibly in this game, I don't know if Alabama got different tackles in the portal, but I know last year their weakness was tackle, right? You don't want to have that weakness going against James Pierce or Tyree West or so many of the guys they could put up there.
Yeah, it kind of feels like speed. Speed hurts their tackles. So I think that this is a game, man, that James Pierce, with that quick first step, especially if he has some sort of a spin move or some sort of a counter to it, this is a perfect game for it, because those guys are big, and they've got long arms and all that type of stuff. But once you kind of beat them with speed once, you can start to counter them. And at that point, man, they don't know which way you're going to go. I mean, Pierce could have a bunch of them. We got several other players. Joshua Josephs, I think he's been playing absolutely phenomenal.
Lights out.
Yeah, right. He's been doing great. But let's get to more of this. So right here, D. Taylor has become a member for 8 months of the channel. Thank you so much for that, D. Thank you to everyone that are members of the channel. Thank you to everyone that has liked. If you haven't already liked, please go ahead and like this video. It helps us out tremendously. Right here, CTB Spiffy is talking about Mike Matthews. He says that he will break out similar to how Ryan Williams did. I think that he could too. I think that he's that
He
special.
could.
He's a very, very good player. He just needs those opportunities. Deborah P says, I think Nico plays better with the fast tempo, like in the Citrus Bowl. Maybe our tackles are holding the back because they're so winded or because they're too winded for that pace combined with penalties. I think so. That's kind of what I talked about. I feel like the offensive line, especially those tackles, are kind of out of shape. So the tempo thing, I mean, we can start to use it more and more as the season goes on, but they got to get in much better shape.
Well,
yeah, go ahead.
What I think about that is tempo. To be successful at tempo, you have to be successful at establishing first downs.
Yep.
And we've had times when that's been easy. But as we've gotten SEC play, it has not been consistent enough to be effective. So we have to get good. Look, if you start off the game and go slow till you start establishing those first downs and build some rhythm, and then put your foot on the gas and go for it. It's kind of, I just think we have to be more consistent at establishing first downs, because that's the only way going fast works. Is you have to be successful at moving the ball. Otherwise you're just getting your defense out there faster, and that's something we don't need.
Okay. All right. So we've got a few people saying that Stevens is the all-time leading rusher, not the most touchdowns. Okay.
Not in touchdowns.
Yeah. So thank you for clearing that up. And then Brian Lemons is saying that Gene had 18 in one season. That was in 1929 and 37 in his career at UT. Okay, so that's who the leader is. You know what? It's crazy because I used that as one of my trivia questions one time. So I probably should have known that. But as soon as I saw that name,
Chuck Webb was number 2. That's all I remember.
Webb is number 2. So UT Badgum says line drive punts have to go away. Yes, and the ball has to get up in the air. Yeah, we got to do a much better job punting too. Special teams, man. I think special teams in this game is going to be critical because every single drive matters. And I think that the game will probably be close. So, yeah, we need for our punter, for our kicker, everybody, they've got to step up. Let's see right here from David Evans 28 says he needs to have easy, quick checkdowns for sure. That's going to be a major part of our game plan. We saw some last week, and the issue is Nico only tried to hit one. It was Dylan Sampson who came out of the backfield. He started off blocking, but he kind of came back out. And Nico tried to throw it to him, but he just missed him. But there were several other times where there was a tight end open, there was a running back open right in his face. Nico's going to have to start to use those checkdowns a lot more. It'll keep our offense rolling for sure. Right here. So Jeff Claybo, what's going on? Jeff says Travis Henry. All right. Not sure what y'all talking about, but Darren Weaver says Hurd for sure needs to step it up. And there's no question about that. I think that he knows it too. You know what I mean? And listen, I think that he's going to. I think that that's coming. He has to kind of focus on his craft a little bit more. CTB Spiffy says, how many snaps do you think Mike Matthews gets? If he got 13 last week, I don't know if he gets that many this week. Maybe I would say 13, probably at most. You know what I mean? What do you think about that, Tim?
No, I mean, I think that sounds fair just from what we saw, but it also depends on, like, look, this is a big game, and I'm not saying this just seems like one of those games that you're going to see somebody go down in. You might need somebody to come in for a series or two. Who knows? How's Bruce Hand? How's Squirrel's arm? I've got a lot of questions on this. Yeah, look, I think with the way it is right now, sure, 13, 15 snaps, but who knows, man, maybe more. I think it's also going to depend on just Nico. If Nico can complete a pass to him, it seems like Nico loves to, once he locks onto a guy, he really likes to go back to him, right?
Yeah.
So you know what? If Mike can come in and get one, and I bet you Nico will go back, and then who knows, man, a star might be born. So let's see.
Yep. And I'm gonna get to this one right here. So Jeff Claybo has become a member of the channel for 6 months. Thank you so much for that, Jeff. And he's saying that Travis Henry all time. All right, so thank you for that, Jeff. Let's get on down to the rest of these. Let's see. Okay, so we've got a few things just kind of talking about James Pierce getting held, for sure. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's something that, like, we need to get a whole lot more calls. I think that everyone knows that. It's definitely obvious. So once that happens too, that's going to help Tennessee's defense out tremendously. Like, think about it. Like, whenever a team is holding James Pierce as much as they are, we keep on backing him up. At some point, they're going to have to stop doing it. And then he's going to his stats, his numbers, they're going to look crazy. So yeah, we've got to push to get some of those holding calls. Let's see if we can find some more of these questions before we get out. All right, so right here, Keg 2071 says, "What do y'all think about 12 personnel?" So I love 12 personnel. I think that obviously that's going to be more of our run heavy set. The thing that Tennessee needs to do, especially if we want to work tempo, is be able to throw out of that. We need to be able to spread the field out with the 12 personnel. And I'm looking towards playoff stuff, right? If that's still where Tennessee's going to go, that's what we have to start doing. So that's my only gripe with it, is that we haven't shown enough of spreading it out, using the tight ends as wide receiving threats. We've just been running out of it. Most of this has been very tight, and we run out of it. But it has worked very well in our running game, so I'm not complaining too much. But, Tim, what do you think about it?
No, I think you nailed it, man. Like, look, I've got no problem with 12 personnel, but just like you said, like, if we see that, we know it's going to be a run. Like, get Kitzelman, get one of those tight ends, let them fake like they're blocking, like we saw, I think it was the NC State game, and for a touchdown. Like, he pauses for a second, looks like he's going to block, slips out behind the guy, and he's wide open.
Yep.
Do more of that. Make them wonder what you're going to do. Don't let them go, okay, they're in 12 personnel, they're going to run.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, if you see Jackson Moy come in now, it's like, what's going to happen.
Well, hey. And then look, that's one, too, where we need to find a pass out of that, too. Just for the reason that you just said. It looks so obvious that, hey, this is a run. And, yeah, stick to that. But let's have some wrinkles out of it, too, that we can bring out just in case. You know what I mean? So, like, that's something that maybe I wouldn't put on film just yet. But we need to be practicing that. You know what I'm saying? But I love that. Bringing in those big old dudes, man, and going jumbo. Dude, that's beautiful. I'd love to see that. All right, so let's get to some more of these. From Darren Weaver saying, "I think Nico is hearing footsteps. He's been bum rushed so much. His confidence is in the dumpster with himself and his line." Absolutely. That's something that he's going to have to be a little bit more. And actually, I don't know if I'm Heupel or Halsey, I probably wouldn't even say, hey, stay inside the pocket, because I don't want him overthinking. It looks like that's what he's doing right now. Stop thinking so much and just play. If you feel like you want to run, then just run. You know what I mean? But stop staring stuff down. Stop, overanalyzing everything out there and just play your game. I think that if he gets to more of that side of the spectrum, then we can still win a championship. We'll have to play more complementary football. The other side would be that Nico can read the field better, that he understands what's going on, and he can kind of look people off and go back to his people based off of those looks. And he can kind of sit inside the pocket, make those throws, or escape on the run and make those throws, all based off of what he's seeing. That side of the spectrum, Tennessee wins the national championship and Nico wins the Heisman. You know what I'm saying? So he's got to be, I think, on one of those two sides of the spectrum, and not so much playing kind of both of that, because with him playing both, we're not getting very much of we're not getting enough from Nico, I think, to win games like this one versus Alabama. Let's see what else we got. Okay, so from Windy City Vol says, we get the run game going, then Nico completes a couple passes. We can build some momentum and roll. I agree. And G White, what's going on, G? Is saying we'll run all over Bama. I've been seeing the exact same thing from watching film. It's there. And Darren Weaver saying, I like to see Nico run the ball 10 to 15 times in this game, keep Bama guessing what to call. I think that might be part of the game plan. The only thing about it is Alabama's linebackers are so big and so fast, that kind of scares me. But the thing about it is, I mean, they haven't really banged up any of the other quarterbacks. You know what I'm saying? They don't play the quarterback run and the read option and all that stuff well. So I think that will be coming. Right here from Dustin Young says, curious how many holes have been called in favor of our defense this year. I don't know. I mean, maybe one or two? I mean, it hasn't been many. I'm just kind of guessing. Tim, would you happen to know that?
No, I do not.
Yeah, I have no idea. All right, so Paul Sales says big liability at left tackle. I think he's going to be fine, man. He's got all the talent. He's got to get himself back in shape, and he's got to continue to work on his craft. And once he does that, he's going to be fine. This offensive line is going to be fine. Brian Lemon says, what does college football do about fake injuries? Looking at you, Ole Miss. I think that at some point you're going to have to start finding teams for that. I don't know that there really is anything that you can do, because teams will find ways around all of those rules. So, but Tim, do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think the thing to do is if a guy goes down with an injury, you set him out for the series.
Oh
You
yeah, I
don't
like
come back in. You don't come back in. Like, and I'm not just talking about the next play. I'm talking about while you got the ball until you punt that thing away or whatever, or they have to go sit. And you know what? I bet coaches it would fix itself if they would do that. I mean,
Yeah.
you could fine, I'm sure, but some of these schools, do you think they would care? Texas, come
Yeah.
on, man, they wiped their butt with that. Like that ain't nothing. Like
Yeah.
no, man, make the kid go sit down. Like if you did that, Lane Kiffin would be putting in the water boys by second quarter, right? Like it would get wild. That's what I would do. Like, okay, well, you're hurt, obviously, so why don't you go sit down for this series? We'll see you later.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. So Brian Lemon says, I see that Alabama does not give up a lot of sacks. So they gave up 4 last weekend, I believe, to South Carolina.
Against a
Which
very twitchy D line.
that right, like they
Yes.
haven't really seen a D line that can really pass rush. Honestly, people
But-
thought that Georgia could. Georgia don't have no daggone pass rush. You know what I'm saying?
No.
Georgia's nothing like what they were. Texas is about to beat the brakes off of Georgia, right? I think Texas is about to win that game by like 21 points. Like that game's going to get out of control. So my whole point is they haven't seen a front like Tennessee's outside of South Carolina. South Carolina was the closest thing.
South Carolina does not have a front like Tennessee. So South Carolina has 2 really good dudes from my understanding and from what I've seen. They've got 2 guys that are absolute ballers that are very twitchy, can do some things. Tennessee has got 4 guys that can do some crazy stuff up there at any one time. They've got some guys that are just as good as the guys from South Carolina on the edges, and they've got some dogs in there at the tackle position. Norman Lott that's for a big man. That dude's got some twitch.
He's very twitchy.
Yeah, and that's just wild. And Omari's just Omari, man. He's
Big O.
Big O. I love it.
Yes, sir. All right, so this is the last one, right? So this is the one that this is the last one that got in by the cutoff. This is from Daniel Webb. And it's asking, have they played weak teams like us? So I would assume that you're asking, has Bama played weak teams like us? I mean, like there's going to be every Power 4 team's got 1 or 2 kind of like,
3
very, very lower tier types of programs that they play. So yeah, they've played that. But, I would say that I mean, like Georgia and Arkansas aren't on that much of a different level, honestly speaking. If you're talking about those teams this season and how they're playing, I actually think that Arkansas would probably beat Georgia if they played. I think that Florida, that game's going to be close versus Georgia, but that's the best team that Alabama has faced. Obviously, they lost to Vanderbilt. I think the Vanderbilt's pretty solid this year too. South Carolina's solid. They can present problems to you. Their biggest thing is that their offense isn't, they don't have that much of an offense. Their offensive style is very different from what Tennessee's is, but their offense still has success versus Bama's defense. So I think that, I mean, if you want to look at it, both sides, I feel like Bama's probably played an even level of competition as what Tennessee has seen so far this season. We'll see what happens coming up this weekend. But as I said to start this thing off, Timmy G, this is really, after watching a whole bunch of film over and over and over again, seeing the strengths and weaknesses, I think that if Tennessee comes out and plays Tennessee football, and if Alabama plays Alabama football, I've got more confidence in this game because I trust Tennessee's defense to limit or to keep Alabama's offense under 30 more than I trust Alabama's defense to keep Tennessee's offense under 30. That's what I think the difference is going to be. So I'm feeling pretty confident. But
Awesome.
So Tim, do you have any final thoughts before we wrap it up?
No, man. Look, Neyland's going to be loud. It's going to be rowdy. And hey, we finally get a game that's not at 7:00. Yeah. I actually think that's a good thing. I think that's the last time we beat Bama, it was a 3:30 game. So hey, I'm not saying that's helping us or not, but hey, maybe. Neyland is going to be loud. It's going to be wild. There's going to be a bunch of big time recruits there this weekend. I don't think Alabama's played anywhere like that this year. And some of those guys, it's going to be a first for them. That the star wide receiver, what's his name? The number 2, Ryan Williams. He's never seen that unless he came on a visit to Neyland.
Well, I mean, hey, look. So their quarterback, he hasn't played in Neyland yet. And I was listening to him talking about it. He didn't specifically say, but he kept saying stuff to let you know that the crowd noise is something that they're worried about. So I think that's an excellent point. The crowd is going to play a major factor.
Oh, it's going to be wild because
Yeah.
Kalen DeVore gave him some bulletin board material earlier this week. You can't put that shit up on Vol Twitter and it not go viral. He said, well, loud, I played at Washington. Oh, don't give some drunk Tennessee fans a challenge, buddy, because let me tell you something. Dude, I didn't talk for 3 days after I went to that one in 2022. My voice was gone.
I think that was fake, though, man. I think that was some type of like AI generated clip. Because I find it hard
I
to
think it
believe
was because I saw it multiple places. Now it could be though, because you know how that stuff is sometimes. But I think he really did say that, and I think how some people are, man. They come from other conferences. They think, we've seen this. Well, no, you ain't.
It ain't. Hey, there is nothing like that at all. But we're gonna end it on that note. Thank y'all so much for joining us today. Please make sure to like and subscribe on y'all's way out. But we will have some more content coming out this week. And also, please do join us coming up Saturday morning for the pregame show. We're not quite sure what time we're going to be doing that yet, but we will let you know. So thank y'all. We'll see y'all in just a minute. Peace.
Right on.